Hey, 8th grade, how's it going? Happy Friday, October 2nd. Welcome back to Conversation. Today, what we're going to be doing is breaking our lesson into two parts. First, we're going to be talking about the environment, specifically animals, and how environmental problems can affect those animals, and also talking about some solutions. The second part of the lesson, we're going to be discussing a little bit about inventions and gadgets and how that looks in the 21st century. So let's get started. When we talk about animals here in Costa Rica, there's lots of different animals that we see on a regular basis, but there's also some that we maybe don't see. We don't see the effects that they have. So what I'd like to do is just give you a couple of examples of some animals in real life, and we're going to just talk about those animals, how they affect not only life here in Costa Rica, but also around the world. As you know, animals breathe air. Okay, that's a pretty common fact, right? They are living things, but how do they breathe air? Let's just talk a little bit about that. So let's meet some animal breathers. First, we have looks like a caribou. This one is a vulture, which I'm sure you've seen here in Costa Rica, right? The question on the screen says, "How do you think vultures breathe?" Well, vultures breathe pretty much the same way that humans do, but they do have a very interesting way of breathing. Here from ScienceDirect.com, it says that many species of birds fly at high altitudes. Their best example are bar-headed geese that fly over the Himalayas twice each year. But let's skip down to where it talks a little bit about vultures. Okay, it says much of a bird's body volume consists of air sacs, all right, which can be inflated or deflated by the muscles of the body cavities. Now, you probably understand this because when you see a human lung, you know that the lungs inflate once air is uh, put into them, and then they deflate once air is put out of them. But how does that affect the vulture? It says that the air sacs are crucial to a bird's breathing, but also have numerous other functions such as reducing body weight for flying or for voice production by the passage of air through the syrinx. All right. If we look back at that diagram right here, we have some very similar parts as the vulture. Okay, when we look at the way the um, human lung works, your diaphragm goes up when you, I'm sorry, down when you breathe out, and your intercostal muscles relax, and your ribs are moving inwards as you breathe out, right? Your lungs get much smaller, all right? So breathing in and out actually changes what what happens not only in your lungs but also in your rib cage, right? That affects your whole body. And the same thing happens with a vulture, right? But what they have is these air sacs that can either inflate or deflate by the muscles of their body, just like we do, right? But their lungs look a little bit different, right? So let's look at a different animal. How does a different animal breathe? Talks a little bit more about the vulture, how if they soar at high altitudes, um, their oxygen is scarce, and their air sacs help them breathe when they're going into those high altitudes, right? All right, so let's look at another animal. You're probably like, oh no, a snake. Well, some snakes only have one lung. Do you know that? It's interesting because most animals have two. Now, I just quick did a Google search on vcahospitals.com. It says that most snakes have only one functional simple lung, usually the right lung. The other lung is smaller or completely absent. But there's actually some exceptions, like boas and pythons have two functioning lungs. That's kind of interesting. So animals are very similar to humans, but they can also be kind of different, right? In some species, the right lung is fully formed while the left is just a small sac. As the snake evolved, their tubular bodies required longer, thinner organs. Pretty cool, huh? So what about other animals like mammals? Well, cheetahs are not just fast runners. At a full sprint, their respiration rate rockets from 60 to 150 breaths per minute, which is double that of a human, right? If they catch their prey at full speed, it will take actually a half hour for them to catch their breath. That's kind of cool, don't you think? I found it kind of cool. So what about other animals, especially here in Costa Rica? Well, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to research how other animals like the sloth breathe. Okay, so you could either do a Google search and type in how does a sloth breathe, or you could look and find more information on a different website. Okay, so hopefully you learned a little bit about those animals and how they're different from humans. What we're going to do is take a look at another aspect of today's class, okay, which again is talking about environmental problems in relation to animals. Let's take a look at this article, which I found from the, I'm not really sure, I think it's at the end actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about um, the animal on the screen, okay? So it says the feather-birded addicts. These little guys know how to party. Shown above are Indian parrots, possibly the enforcement agency's strongest ally. They're fighting fire with fire, or maybe drugs with drugs. Since 2015, India's opium poppy farmers have been increasingly complaining about addicted birds ravaging their crops. They're referring to the local parrots, who get their fix by feeding on the poppies upwards of 40 times a day. The opium poppy usually germinates this time of year, in about March. It is known as taxonomically as Papaver seminifer. Okay, so sometimes when we read in English, there's other words that are from other languages. This one I'm not quite sure of the pronunciation, but the basic idea of the first couple of sentences that we've read is that there is an environmental problem, right? That in India, there's a drug problem, which is actually pretty common around the world. Let's read what these birds are doing and how they are helping society. So it continues with saying, the poppies produce 20 to 25 grams, or a little under an ounce, of opium. The plant oozes the opium in the form of a milky fluid, which is scraped for alkaloids like morphine and codeine. It produces a relaxing, euphoric effect on humans and is highly addictive. The parrots, also easily hooked, experience the opposite effect upon ingestion, so they're not affected like humans. To these avians, eating opium results in hyperactive, caffeine-like reaction. Just take a look at the Adelaide finds above, huddled atop an opium-caked cement wall as if it were a table at a dance club. When the birds' highs wear off, they fly haphazardly or slump in fields. In India's Malwa belt, the site of roughly 75% of the country's legal opium trade, farmers are fighting back with sonic warfare. Okay, so you can tell that already they're causing a little bit of a stir inside of the community, right? People are a little bit up in arms of the fact that these birds are taking the poppy population and they're consuming the poppies, right? Up to 20 grams a day, right? Which may seem like a big issue because they're consuming these products, which is a big part of the economy in India, right? But now we're going to go into a second very interesting solution to that problem, how they're getting rid of the birds. Okay, so let's keep reading. It says, this mostly entails blaring speakers, shooting fireworks at the birds. As great as the parrot's plague sounds for the worldwide drug epidemic, most of these farms actually have licenses and supply medicinal manufacturing companies. The parrots almost certainly ravage illicit opium fields, but also the stuff India uses to treat patients. One could say that the parrots are doing too good of a job to keep opium off the streets. So, I'm just going to pause right here and ask the following question. What is the problem in India? What problem are the people of India having? Well, if you look back at the book that we were looking at, you'll notice that there is a problem with the drug industry, right? They're trying to combat this issue with the drug industry of people using drugs with also the parrots using the drugs. So isn't it interesting how the birds are actually the ones using the drugs too? But it seems like they're actually helping the drug industry. How are how are these birds helping the drug industry? Do you remember from the reading? Well, they are consuming these drugs, right? So that the the people are not being as hooked, right? They're ingesting the seeds and they're ingesting the poppies up to 20 to 25 grams of that opium, so that maybe that either helps or hurts the industry, right? Kind of does both, I think. Let's continue reading to figure out what's going on. Okay. So people are actually shooting fireworks at these birds to try to get them away from their crops. As great as this parrot plague sounds for the worldwide drug epidemic, most of these farms actually have licenses and supply medicinal manufacturing companies. The parrots almost certainly ravage illicit opium fields, but also the stuff India uses to treat patients. One could even say that the parrots are doing too good of a job to keep opium off the streets. Which is interesting because seeing as Britain has its own burgeoning parrot infestation, the writer of this article says that he wonders if the UK should just deputize the birds and sick them on drug dealers. So it's kind of an interesting way to think about combating the drug problem around the world, and in this case, in Great Britain, or maybe even Costa Rica or the United States, right? It makes you think, how is our world really connected? Okay. Are the animals in our environments affecting us? And if they go away, how is that going to continue to affect society? What do you think? Do you think that this is a problem or a solution to what's going on in the environment? Do you think that those poppies um, should have been consumed by the birds? Do you think that the birds should be able to be blasted by fireworks to get rid of them? What do you think? All right, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be talking a little bit about a couple of those words that you might have seen inside of the reading. Okay, the first one is addled.
Addled,
Addled.
addled,
Okay, addled means unable to think clearly or confused. Okay, so if we look back at the text that we were looking at before, um, you see this word addled right here on the screen, right? It says, just take a look at the addled finds above, huddled atop an opium-caked cement wall as if they were a table at a dance club. Okay, so addled, again, means unable to think clearly. So when the birds were consuming those poppy plants, they were unable to think clearly. It even said in the text that these birds were a little bit almost like affected by a caffeine-like substance. All right. What about that next word that we heard?
Fiend.
Fiend. Fiend. Okay. A fiend is an evil spirit or a demon. So if we look back at the text, it says that they were almost like addled fiends. Okay. They were almost like possessed by a demon. Okay. So when we see words in a reading that we don't quite understand, we can always look up those words in a dictionary, okay? The only thing I did was just look it up in Google, right? I just did a quick Google search. I typed in the word addled, okay? And then it came up as the first option, right? All right, we're going to transition to a second part of the lesson for today and talk a little bit about inventions and gadgets, which is in Unit 10 inside of your book, okay, pages 44 through 47. We're going to be describing gadgets and their uses, as well as discussing product features and explaining new inventions that are popping up in the 21st century. So, which gadgets do you use on a regular basis? I'm sure that nowadays, with the pandemic, you are using your computer a whole lot more and doing online classes, right? That's a pretty common thing. And, I'm sure you're also using your cell phone. Nowadays, we're spending a lot more time with our cell phones, and they can almost seem like they're taking over our lives, at least with me. I know that my digital use of these gadgets has definitely increased, and sometimes it seems like our cell phones are almost taking over our lives in a way that they're almost becoming part of us, right? Take a look at these pictures that I've shown you on the screen. I think that it's important that we talk a little bit about how they are affecting us. And I'm just going to pause the video just for a second and have you reflect on the following images. So as you reflect on those images, what thoughts come to mind? All right, so it's interesting how a lot of these images are pretty similar. The fact that there's like a device that's almost taking over the person. These people almost seem like zombies using their devices or their social media to go about their lives, but almost like the social media becomes part of them, almost encarcelating them or blocking them from the social relationships that they should have. I like this image because it contrasts the difference between maybe the generations and how technology is affecting them. Or this one kind of shows a transformation after using technology. What do you think about these images? All right, so I'm sure you've also been able to experience using technology in a positive way or even maybe a revolutionary way. So I'm going to transition over to some life hacks. I don't know if you know this, but you can actually play the happy birthday song on your cell phone by using the following numbers and symbols. So you can see that in orange on the screen. It's kind of an interesting way to look at technology. Also, if your camera ever gets stolen, you can go to stolencamerafinder.com and you can upload an old photo from your camera and it will show up if someone is posting using your camera. Kind of cool, right? Um, and on your smartphone, actually, you can type in this combination of numbers and symbols and it will show the radiation level of your phone if it's less than 1.6 watts per kilogram. Then it's correct. If it is more, then you must change your mobile immediately. It's kind of interesting how technology is working nowadays. Not sure if your remote control is working? Use any camera to check whether or not it emits a light when you press a button. There's also a website called openstack.org that provides free textbooks to college students and is partially funded by Bill and Melinda Gates. You can actually look online to find different textbooks. Kind of cool nowadays. If you accidentally text the wrong person, immediately put your phone on airplane mode, and once it fails to deliver, delete the message. Don't want the sender to know that you have read their WhatsApp message? Turn on airplane mode and read the message. Now, turn off airplane mode. The blue ticks won't appear. You can search for a movie on Google by typing Google Drive insert movie title, and the movie will pop up. Kind of cool. Break something? Fixitclub.com will show you how, step by step, to fix just about anything. When you're watching Netflix, if the quality is poor, press Control, Alt, Opt, Shift, S, and change the bugger rate to 3000 for HD. Kind of cool. So technology, boys and girls, can be used in a positive way with online classes, and then it can also be kind of affecting us negatively. But then there's also some hacks that we can use to go about our daily life to understand technology more. Okay? Maybe you are tired of technology. Maybe you are interested in technology to see how it's going to change, right? Or how it has changed over the years. And I think that technology is a very interesting part of who we are as humans living in this 21st century. So I've actually put a article on the screen, which we're not going to read entirely, but this article is all about the cool technology that's coming in the year 2020. The link for this article will be inside of the video notes. It's from interestingengineering.com. So I want to hear your opinions about this. So what are some great technologies that you can buy right now? Well, the first one is Apple AirPods. All right, these Apple AirPods are relatively new, but nowadays you don't have to use a cord to listen to music. You can just have the Bluetooth speakers pipe the music right in there, right? Let's look at another one. Drone X. You can now take photos from the air, which I think is pretty cool. This one says Extra PC breathes new life into old PCs for laptops. Not quite sure what that really means, but you can click on it to find out more if you'd like. Mosquitotron is a non-toxic mosquito trap. Look at that. It traps the mosquitoes, plugs into a USB, and it will get rid of the mosquitoes inside of your house. Looks like it's pretty safe, too. You can now charge your cell phone wirelessly. I think it connects to this almost like a magnetic charger, and you can feed your cell phone, and you don't have to plug it into the wall, right? KeySmart might be the future of keychains. It looks like it hooks onto your phone and a whole bunch of different settings you can use. Fits into your pocket. You can turn your phone into an HUD with visor. I kind of don't really know what that means, but you can check it out if you want to. You can get your own personal car GPS tracker with iTrack. Look at that. So many different ways that technology is changing. Sonic X Pro is the next generation in toothbrushes. You can read why this changes the toothbrush industry. And this one is kind of interesting, especially if you're interested in learning languages. Muma will make you fluent in any language in no time. You can actually put it up to the person's mouth. They will speak what they need to say, and then it will translate the language in real time. So I think it's kind of interesting to talk about technology, how gadgets are changing the face of technology. If you would like to post on the video for today inside of the Instagram page what you've learned from today's video, I'd appreciate it. But other than that, this is the end of the video for today. Thank you very much for your attention, boys and girls, and we will see you guys next time.